Hello and welcome back. Today's video is likely to be a two-parter. I am getting started on making my fairy costume or fairy or pixie outfit. I do not have all of the supplies that I need, specifically what I need to make the wings, but what I do have is what I need to make the outfit. Now I have chosen 3 fabrics to start with, and the design is just kind of coming to me. I have not drawn anything out. I probably should, but I am going to be completely hand drafting today's pattern, to which I will be digitizing and adding to my Etsy shop. Before I show you the fabrics that I'm going to be using, down in the description below is a link to my Etsy shop. I have, I think, 4 or 5 patterns on there as of now, and I am making it a goal to add at least 1 per week. And with spooky season coming, I am starting to get in the mood. Therefore, I am going to be gearing towards making costumey items. I think that would be pretty fun. And since, you know, my style kind of falls in the costumey section, and I wear those things daily, it's not really different for me, but it falls in the costumey category. And now for the fabrics that I'm going to be using today. For the skirt and the blouse, hopefully, I think I have enough fabric. I am going to be using this lovely green fabric. It is a curtain. It is a double panel curtain, and it is just gorgeous. I'm going to be doing like a handkerchief jagged type skirt, like, you know, your typical pixie skirt. I'll put a drawing here on the screen. Hopefully by time I'm editing this video, I will have had something drawn up. I will also be making a corset or a waist belt. I haven't exactly decided yet, but this is the fabric I'm going to be using. It is another curtain, go figure. It is technically a valance. It is pretty. I like it. And I guess there's a little under a yard here, maybe right at a yard, and it also has some trim on the bottom. So maybe we will try to figure out how to use that to go along with this design. And then I have some white fabric. This is for the lining for the corset or waist belt or whatever it is that I decide to make. It will definitely be boned and have structure. And I am making this whole outfit in multiple pieces instead of making it just one dress because I want to have the versatility so that I can use it with other clothing or costuming options. And if this were a corset or even a waist belt, it can be used for a wide variety of different costumes, different genres, different eras even. I have my fabrics. I have my gift wrap because I have ran out of craft paper, so this is what I'm going to be using to draft my pattern pieces. I have my tape measure, and I have my basket that I'm going to be placing all of my things in to carry upstairs to the table, where I am going to lay everything out, cut it out, and start assembling. Now I am going to time myself to see how long this takes. Normally, when it comes to hand drafting patterns, it does take quite a bit of time because I have to measure and figure out, and then to measure and figure out. But also, right now it's about 4:30. I need to start dinner in about 30 minutes. So I'm hoping that I can have my pattern pieces figured out, draft my pattern, and get my fabric cut out before I start dinner. That way, after dinner, I can just sew it all together, and that is what is always the quickest. It's like no time at all to sew things together. It's the figuring and cutting that takes forever. Well, I have nothing left to say. Let's go ahead and head upstairs to the table. It is now the next day. I have been drafting patterns for 3 hours yesterday and about 4.5 hours today. The pattern drafting process always takes so long. But in that time, I did draft and cut out all of the pattern pieces for my fairy blouse, skirt, the waist belt. Oh, that's all. Okay, I did those things. And today I drafted 3 corset patterns. Well, technically 2 and a waist belt. I have them here in front of me, the waist belt and 2 corsets. One corset is an underbust, the other corset is above the bust. All of these are going to close in the middle, in the front. Now I have my fabric laid out here in front of me. This fabric that I'm using was a valance. I have ripped all of the seams, pulled out the lining, ironed everything. Hopefully I am going to have enough fabric in order to make all 3 of these, because if I'm going to make 1, I might as well make 3. But I need to lay the pattern pieces out first to see exactly what it is that I'm working with. I can definitely do the waist belt because it's going to take a lot less fabric than the corsets. The corsets are going to take like a half a yard each. I'm estimating I have about a yard, maybe a little bit more than a yard here. And because this fabric is patterned and directional, instead of folding it in half and cutting my pieces out, I have to cut 2 pieces out of everything. I'm going to have to lay the pieces out, probably on drawing around the pattern pieces, and then flipping them over and laying them out like that, and then having to cut each piece out twice. But with the lining, I will be able to fold it in half and then just cut the pieces out like that. I am not going to be making a mock-up. Probably should, but I'm not going to. So I'm done yapping. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is the next day. I did not get a lot done yesterday. I woke up with a headache. It quickly turned into a migraine, but I do have all of my pieces cut out, and I'm going to be moving on today to assembling and sewing everything together. Here in my basket, I have all of my pieces cut out. I'm going to start the assembly process. Since I did start with the skirt and blouse for the main outfit for the fairy look, I am going to get started on putting those pieces together. I will then put together the corset pieces. Here I have my waistband. These are the sleeves. This is the front and back of the bodice. And these are the skirt pieces. Now with my curtain panel fabric that I had, I was able to cut out 5 pieces on the fold and then 1 piece not on the fold. I did add a little extra of a seam allowance where I'm going to have to sew it together. But I will leave that part for last because I am going to have to gather this inside of a waistband. So I will take my 2 pieces of my panel and just move it to the side for now. So with right sides together, I'm going to pin my panel pieces together. And since these are pretty much just straight lines that I'm going to be sewing, I don't feel the need to put a whole bunch of pins in. Now we can see here on this fabric, it has this lovely scalloped edge, I believe that's what it's called. Per the entire curtain, it was all over the edges. So what I did was cut about a 1.5 inch basically trim along the entire edge of the curtain. So now I have this roll of scalloped edge that I'm going to try to use as trim, likely on the skirt panels. Now what I'm trying to figure out here on the bodice front and back is because I left this edge here, I need to make a channel where I'm going to insert the elastic, and the channel needs to be a 1/2 inch. Now I do have fabric left. I should be able to make some channels out of this. So that's probably what I will do is that right? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out roughly 2 3/4 inch long strips of this that is going to match the length of the top of the bodice. And I am just improvising because I left the trim detail on the top. I want that still there, which is why I left it. So if I did not have the top of the trim on the bodice, I would just fold that over on itself, leaving a 1/2 inch seam for me to slide my elastic in. Now for the bottom of the bodice, that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to take the fabric, I'm going to fold it over a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to sew it closed. Actually, this fabric frays, so I'm going to fold it in on itself and then fold it again. And that is going to give me my channel for sliding my elastic in. Something else that I was just thinking of, the sleeves that I have cut out are the over the shoulder, pull down the shoulder option. So the elastic that I'm going to be using in the bodice is also going to go through the sleeves. So what I need to do is take the top of the sleeves and same thing, I need to sew in a channel. I'm gonna have to fold the end over on itself like so. Sew a channel here for the elastic to go all the way through both bodices, or the front and the back bodice, and the sleeves as well. All right, the front of the blouse and the sleeves are now sewn together. What I did was line up the channels. I did not sew the channels together. So these are still open. I'm gonna have to kind of figure out how to do that. Likely whenever I sew it together, I'm going to end up sewing the elastic in place as well, because that's just kind of how that turned out to be. Something that I did figure, and this is a note to myself since I am digitizing the pattern, I need to add 1 inch to the top of the sleeves because I'm sewing down the channel. I did not account for the channel to be sewn, so I need to add about 1 inch, which is not a big deal. But note to self. Now that this part is sewn together, I am going to take the back bodice panel and do the exact same thing, attaching only to one sleeve though. So I'm going to take this sleeve, right sides together, matching up my channels, and then starting below the channel, I am going to sew it. After that, I will grab some elastic, thread it through the channel, sew the other side together, creating the bodice, and then just finagle and get the elastic to sit how I want along the shoulders and bodice line. I also have to do the bottom as well. Alright, I went ahead and sewed the entire blouse together. I did leave all of my channels open. Now this does look quite big, but we have to remember that I'm going to be putting elastic in it and it is going to gather up quite a bit. So here I have my roll of elastic, and I am simply going to start with the bottom. I am going to wrap the elastic around my waist, right around where the blouse is going to sit. And I'm going to leave about 1 inch of overlap. Now for me, I don't want this to be too tight, but I want it to be snug. For the bottom, and now for the top, I'm going to give myself plenty extra here. Wrapping around the shoulders, and then also if I wanted it above the shoulders, see this is where we get a little, I'm unsure at this point. So what I'm going to do is just wrap it around, give it an extra 3 inches or so, and then just cut. So first I'm going to put in the bottom elastic, then I'm going to do the top. Here I got a small safety pin. I'm going to attach it to my elastic and then thread it through my channel. And now I am going to sew it in place here with a zigzag stitch. And now for the top elastic, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now I have my elastic channels in place, I am going to put the top on and adjust the elastic. Alright, my main outfit, the blouse and the skirt, are done. I'm moving on to the corset and the waist belt. Now here I have my waist belt and my corset pieces cut out. Since I started with cutting out the corset pieces first, this is what I'm going to begin putting together. Now the corset is going to be really easy to put together. It is 4 main pieces. I have the outer layer fabric and the lining fabric. The way that I'm going to assemble this is starting with the back piece and then connecting all of the pieces until I get to the front. I now have my outer layer fabric and lining layer fabrics pinned together. I'm going to move to the sewing machine and sew them all together. The ensemble is now done, and I do think that it gives the fairy vibes. It is most definitely missing the wings. And I'm going to do a quick wrap up here at the end. I absolutely love the skirt. The blouse, I absolutely love it. I think it would be good. I love big sleeves. I probably would make the sleeves bigger, but it does give the look that I was going for. I love how it's ruffled all the way around the top. It gives dimension and texture to, well, an already textured fabric, but I do think that it really helps pull the whole thing together. The only thing for me is that I feel like, for me specifically, I do not like to have fabrics touching my underarms. I don't like the feeling of it. So I do think that I should, for me, reduce the underarm area by an inch, maybe even 2, because I prefer nothing touching that area. I think, however, the pattern that I drafted is accurate in which most garments fit people. But I am putting this in there because I know that I am not the only person who does not like to have things touching their underarm area. Also, for the corset, I think the corset turned out really good considering, I wrapped my dress form with cling wrap and I drew the pieces on, and I'm getting pretty good at it, I have to say. But again, with the underarm, it comes up way too high. I would take it down an inch, probably 2 inches. I would pull the underarm area down. Also, and this is for me, we're going to call them sleeves, that's not what they're called, but the shoulder straps, they're too big, which is a really easy fix. I just have to bring it in and sew it. It's not even that big of a deal. I think that the left one is much looser than the right one. Not sure how that turned out that way. I would have to bring this side in like 1.5 inches and this side in probably only like 1/2 inch. I don't know how that happened. Now, the way that I had to bind the corset, I did not have enough of a piece of straight fabric of this pattern, and I didn't have any other fabrics that even came close to it. What I did have was one strip of bias tape that was only 1/2 inch longer than this was, so it worked out perfectly. It is all that I did have, so I used the brown. See, again with that strap. There is no brown in the pattern of the fabric, but it goes in the color scheme, and I think that it works well. I'm gonna fix that right now. Now I am in the process of making a digital pattern for the entire ensemble, the skirt, the blouse, and the corset. I did in this video start making a waist belt, but I did not finish the waist belt because I think I got my measurements wrong. So here is the waist belt. I have it mostly sewn together. I need to add an additional panel, which is probably going to have to be put in the front. It's about 4 inches too small. Again, I'm not sure how that happened. I guess if I just didn't add enough seam allowance along each one of my pieces, probably that's how it happened. Maybe I did any seam allowance. Maybe that's what happened. So I'm going to adjust that. I'm going to make sure that I get the waist belt pattern, the digital pattern pieces correct. And I will include the waist belt in this pattern as well. Now, if I were to make this look more fairy, I think what I would need to do is add lace. So I want to make a lace underskirt with the same skirt pattern that I made for this video, but I am going to make it long. I'm going to make it the full length. I do have, and you can't even tell, I have a lace underskirt on currently, but it is shorter than the skirt is, so it is very difficult to see. Also, the wings. This outfit needs wings, and I just do not have the stuff I need to make the wings, and it's going to be a few weeks before I'm able to get the things. Another thing, ears. Some little fairy ears would be nice. Be real cute. And a legitimate headpiece, because straight up, it's a necklace that I don't wear. It does the job. It does not look very good, but it does the job, I suppose. What I would like to have, or make, I'll probably end up making it, is a headpiece that goes all the way around, kind of like a tiara or a crown, but not quite. I want it to be gold vines with a light green leaf wrapped and swirling around. I think would be really cute. Also, and final thing, shoes. I do not have any kind of shoes that would even come close to resembling the fairy look. What I have and worn today are these cowgirl boots. So I still have quite a bit of work to do on the total fairy ensemble. The next time you see this ensemble will likely be whenever I make my wings. By then, I will have all of those layered pieces that I was talking about. The headpiece, the underskirt, the fairy shoes, and probably better jewelry. I just threw this all together. It is not the best look, but again, it does the job. Serves the purpose of a fairy who lost her wings, or has yet to gain her wings. Well, that is all that I have for today's video. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me while I made this outfit. If I were to rate it, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Pretty good. My biggest gripe with it is the underarm issue, which really isn't a big deal. If you liked today's video, please give a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. In the description below, there will be a link to my Etsy shop, which will have this digital pattern as well as other patterns available. If you're not already, consider subscribing. I post every Wednesday, and I make things that tickle my fancy. And I can't really think of anything else to say. So thanks again, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye.